And then I think 2 weeks later, they told us about the results.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So you want to tell us about your service project a little bit?
Sure, yeah, I'd love to. So since my freshman year, I've been pretty involved with the MIT PSC, which is the MIT Public Service Center. And just a little plug there, it's one of the most awesome organizations I've worked with since I came here, and I think it's really defined my experience at MIT. So I'm of Indian origin, and my parents grew up in India. So I had this special connection to India, and going back and visiting and seeing everything there, I kind of identified what I thought were some of the problems that I could tackle. So I decided to start this program called the Entrepreneurial Spirit. And the idea here was that I had seen in several different villages in India that a lot of the women and young girls had artistic talents that were just inborn in their culture and their traditions. For example, painting or sewing or arts and crafts. Things like that are not generally thought of as being sustainable, for like life-sustaining and profitable. But they had these amazing talents that if they brought them here would thrive, because things like that are very marketable here. And so I wrote a curriculum to teach these women how to take their skills and apply an entrepreneurship spin on them to make them sustainable for their lives. And so basically the curriculum included things like, what's a business model? What's a marketing model? How do I do a formal product design? How do I keep an inventory? And what are public speaking skills? And how can I improve my public speaking skills? So we kind of walk them through the process of starting their own mini business in sort of a microfinance concept. And so I actually was able to implement this project in Bombay, India, at an all-girls hostel for girls who came from pretty much underserved villages around the country. And so throughout the 6 weeks of December and January that I worked there, we took them through the process of them formalizing an idea, designing their business model, coming up with their product, and actually selling it at a bazaar that we held for them. And then I wanted to see, and then after I left, we actually incorporated a lot of MIT alumni in the area to serve as mentors for them. So throughout the process, they were mentored by people who they looked up to. And after I left and the project was over, they continued to have mentoring on career-related issues, like what problems do women face in the work field, or how do I create a resume and how do I network. And that's still going on today. And then over last summer, I wanted to try it out in a different setting. So I took the project to Mexico, and in particular, it was a small community named Valtierra. And I went there with one of my friends, Cicely, and together we facilitated the same program in a different community, and the dynamic was completely different, but I think they've achieved very similar goals. And were able to really understand how their skills could be profitable and marketable. So that's just a brief synopsis of my project, and actually I would encourage you, if you're interested in it, to please contact me. I'd love to hear from you, because as Hamsika is probably going to ask me later, I'm interested in expanding it to many different communities, domestically and internationally.
What were some of the really hard parts about it?
So I remember one particular instance in India. There was this girl named Meeta, and she was this awesome girl. I didn't know very much about her in the beginning, but what I did notice was that she would sit out from the group a lot. In the beginning, everyone was sort of hesitant because, of course, I was this foreigner. I'd come from the United States. I was bringing this new concept to them that they'd never heard of before. But getting over the barrier in the big masses was a lot easier than targeting some individual cases. And so once everybody had sort of become accustomed to this new idea and started getting very excited about the project, they all started forming their teams. But this one girl, Meeta, would always sit out and wouldn't really want to participate. And I thought at first it was just that she was taking a little longer to get used to the whole setting. But it persisted, and so I decided to talk to her. So I just sat out with her sometimes and talked to her to get to know her and just become her friend. And she told me that she felt inferior to her peers and that she couldn't participate because she hadn't gone to school like all her peers had. Her family was particularly poor, and so she had to work in order to help them and to sustain her family. And so her skill was jewelry making. So she would make handcrafted jewelry and sell it in order to make money for her family. And I was just thinking, this is perfect. We're trying to take these skills and teach everyone how to make them sustainable. But how do we get over this barrier of her feeling personally that she is not up to the same level as her peers? And so slowly I talked her into suggesting this idea to her group that, her group's project could be jewelry making because she was an expert on it. And it took a lot of convincing. She had never done something like this before. She had never taken the lead and risen to the occasion, but she really wanted to, and I could tell that. And so I sort of nudged her and talked to her and explained her how wonderful she really was. And after, I think it was like a week or something of struggling, she finally agreed to try it out. And I was just hoping it would go well, because if it didn't, that would shatter her. And so she finally did. Her team loved her, and they accepted her, and the jewelry making team was actually one of the most successful teams there. So I think that was one of the challenges. But one of the bigger challenges that I realized, and that kind of has shaped where I want to go in the future, is that I saw that a lot of health problems, basic healthcare problems, got in the way of advancing this education. So the same girl, Mitha, her father actually halfway through the project ended up having to get an amputation surgery, and she had to go home for it. He was severely diabetic and got an infection on his foot and had to get an amputation. And so she, halfway through the project, just as her leadership skills were blossoming, she had to go home. And I could just see that glimmer of hope that I saw in her eyes was gone, because she would never be able to realize her full potential. And that, to me, was just a real telltale sign that healthcare needs would always come before education. And so I think in the future I want to pursue a career in global health, because I know that that's the first step to advancing education.
Nice. So when you're not thinking about service projects or saving the world or doing like hard work and stuff like that, what do you do just to like let loose or have fun?
Well, I love to dance. I've been dancing since I was like 4 or 5 years old, and I do a type of dance which is called Bharatanatyam, which is Indian classical dance, and I'm actually on our team here, which is called MIT Natya. And so I run rehearsals and just practice with the team, and it's so fun. It's a way to let your stress out, because I think dancing and just like being very energetic is the best way of just like releasing all of that stress. Other than that, I like to read, hang out with friends. Camp Kesem is one of my favorite things to do, because we get to play with little kids, play games. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Camp Kesem is this awesome camp for kids whose parents have cancer or have passed away from cancer. And it's just a week for them to have a lot of fun, for the counselors to have a lot of fun and play fun games and sing songs and do all sorts of cool things.
Cool. And so a lot of people on the blogs are pre-fresh, or parents are pre-fresh. So whether it's applying for like the Truman Scholarship or applying to MIT, it's like a similar process, right? You go through the same writing, application filling, talking, interviewing, anxiety, all of that.
Oh yeah.
So what would you say to pre-fresh? Like, if you could say anything to them, like MIT is obviously a pretty high caliber school, and a lot of people's hopes are writing on applications.
Right. So I think there are two things that got me through my 3 years at MIT so far, and then also through the application process. So the first thing that that has kind of shaped my experience since I was in high school is that I would say never do something that you don't actually really want to do. Nothing that you don't want to do is going to look good on your application or on your resume, because if you don't really want to do it, it's going to show. It's going to show that you didn't put your all into it. And so just stay away from those things, because there's something for everyone. There's so many opportunities at places like MIT and even in high school. And so just find your passion, because when you find your passion and when you love what you do, or when you do what you love, you'll love what you do. And that really shows. And when you find your passion, you'll put everything aside to get that done and to do it to your best ability and to exceed your expectations, because it's a goal that you've set for yourself that you're not doing for anybody else but yourself. So I think that's the most important piece of advice, if I can even give advice. that I would give to you. And the second thing is, don't get your heart set on anything. Going through the Truman application process, you put countless hours of work into it, just like editing small words and like getting every sentence perfect. And if you don't get to the next stage, it can seem like the end of the world. But the whole way through, I was talking it through with myself and with my parents and with my older brother, and you know, everything that I did in this whole process was such a learning experience. I learned how to write better. I learned how to put my experiences onto paper and how to translate this way of thinking, really, how these experiences changed the way I thought, how to put that into an essay. And all of that, believe it or not, it means so much, and it really teaches you something. And so don't ever think of anything as an effort wasted. You might think it's the end of the world, but you've learned something out of it, and you've grown as a person, and you've really exceeded your expectations. And if you try your hardest, there's nothing anyone can say to take that away from you, because you put what you could into it, and whatever happens, happens.
Aww. And lastly, CPW is coming up in like 2 days.
So excited.
So looking back on your own CPW, what do you think you would have done differently, or what do you like advice for pre-fresh? Just sort of like an unrelated thing to close it all up.
Well, CPW was it was like the immediate deal closer on MIT. You're gonna absolutely love it. MIT is the most amazing place ever. But thinking back to my CPW, I don't think I really slept that much. I don't think you ever will at MIT. Just kidding. But just go to everything, check out everything, because you never know what MIT has in store for you. There's such a wealth of opportunities, from Europe, which is our research program, to activities and clubs and service and academics. There's something for everyone, and just explore that, and don't feel overwhelmed. Well, I mean, you will feel overwhelmed, we all do, but just look at it and don't commit yourself to anything. You don't have to, you're still a pre-fresh. But just explore everything and see what's out there, and see how your skills can tie into these things, and what you can do, and how you can make a difference. Because one thing that I think I've realized through this whole process is that, yeah, we're all scientists and engineers at this prestigious institution of MIT. But really, we need to take that and apply it to the world, and apply it to the world's problems. And so when you're here, I think you'll really get a glimpse of that. You'll see what an amazing place MIT is, and how we take all of those skills and apply them to real world problems. So if there's something you're interested in, find out what that is, and find out how you can take your skills and your academic knowledge and really go make a difference, because I know you can.
Okay, last words / saying bye.
Well, thank you so much for listening. As I mentioned earlier, it was one of my dreams to be on the MIT admissions blog, and it's finally come true. But if you have any questions about my project, please don't hesitate to contact me. I actually really want to expand it, to have more PSC fellows do this project in different communities, and even to expand it domestically, because I think there's a lot of urban